Let's talk about units for acceleration. The units of acceleration are the first times in the course that usually students find the units to be confusing. So how we want to talk about this today is to look at this speedometer, which you might see in a car. And you'll notice there's mph, miles per hour, not written like we scientists would, but miles per hour nonetheless in the white. And then in most cars today, you'll also see, at least in the US, you'll see both of these. In the rest of the world, you'll only see the red one in kilometers per hour. So kilometers per hour in red and miles per hour in white. So let's suppose we have someone who's driving a car, and they're driving that car, and at one instant in time, they're traveling at 20 miles per hour, and a little bit later, they are traveling at 50 miles per hour. And let's suppose they went from 20 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour in, let's say, 10 seconds. So what would their acceleration be? Well, their change in velocity would be 50 minus 20, and we said it happened over 10 seconds. So that would be 30 over 10, or 3. 3 what? Well, on the top we had miles per hour, and on the bottom we had seconds. So the units would be 3 miles per hour per second. Miles per hour per second. 3 miles per hour per second. Now, if we were looking at an example where someone were abroad and they were traveling, and let's say they were traveling at 60 kilometers per hour, and then they were traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, and let's say they did that over 5 seconds, well, then we could look at that acceleration and we would say 100 kilometers per hour minus 60 kilometers per hour, and they did that over 5 seconds. Well, that would give us 40 kilometers per hour over 5 seconds, or 8 kilometers per hour per second. 8 kilometers per hour per second. How many kilometers per hour did your speed change every second? How many miles per hour did your speed change every second? Well, when we're dealing with classic physics problems, we're not using speeds of miles per hour or kilometers per hour. Our speeds are in meters per second. So now let's suppose that someone goes from 6 meters per second to 24 meters per second in 4 seconds. Well, the units on this would be 24 meters per second minus 6 meters per second, all over 4 seconds. So that gives us 18 meters per second over 4 seconds, which reduces to 9/2 meters per second, which then is 4.5 meters per second. So just like we have kilometers per hour per second, a velocity per second, miles per hour per second, miles per hour per second, a velocity per second, we have meters per second, a velocity per second. Well, algebraically, meters per second becomes meters per second squared. So the units of acceleration using SI units are meters per second squared. The units are meters per second, and that equals meters per second squared. Now I don't know of any other person in the world who knows what a square second is. It's not a real thing. It's just a function of the algebra of working with the units. So meters per second squared is like meters per second is like miles per hour per second, is like kilometers per hour per second. It's just that this meters per second squared is meters per second combined algebraically.